Hello, welcome to another video on how to level up. This is a deck I've been using. This is early days in the Scholomance new expansion, so I don't really have a lot of cards at the moment, but what I do have is a deck that is leveling up, so I thought I would share it. And I can also tell you what additions to put in that are good. Basically, a lot of the legendaries you can put in. But let's just look at what we've got here for now. So this Frazzled a Freshman 1/4 for 1 mana. That's a pretty massive stat line, right? For 1 mana. I'm not even sure there's anything in the game that is anywhere near to that. If you look at 1 mana cost, I mean, I guess that's a 0/5. But apart from that, apart from the depth charge, like at 1 mana, like everything is like 1/1, 1/2. Oh no, I guess you got this as well. Soulburnt Ash Tongue. I mean, that would probably also, I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's a pretty high stat line though for 1 mana. And it has no negative effects either. So yeah, I mean, and that is also a new card, right? I think it is. Oh no, it's Ashes of Outland. Okay, but anyway, going back to Priest. Yeah, so this is really good. One of probably the best cards is this though, the Dragonmort Overseer. This can get you such a huge amount of value, and it works well with Raised Dead as well to get that back. But probably the strongest play you can do is if you do Dragonmort Overseer into Gift of Luminance, they buff each other, right? So one of them becomes a 3/3, one of them becomes a 4/4, and they both have Divine Shield. And so that makes it really, really difficult. Funnily enough, and I'll show you something interesting. This because it's quite early, and I'll just show you some random stuff. It was why I thought of making this. This is a Paladin deck which is really actually kind of works though. It does actually kind of work, but it's very early days looking at it. But there's a lot of Divine Shield stuff going on, like a lot of Divine Shield stuff. So it does make Divine Shield definitely more viable. But anyway, back to this deck. Like for instance, a really nice combo is Raised Dead directly into Brittlebone Destroyer. I can get rid of like huge minions. In general, what you want to do is once you spend the early game like powering up a minion, right? So probably the best combo at the beginning is Coin Injured Tolvir, turn 2, Power Word Feast. Right, so that gives you a 4/8. And obviously it'll be a 4/5. It's a 4/5 at the end of the turn, and then it gets buffed to a 4/8. And often, if you can do that without it suffering too much, even if it does, even if it's does take 2 damage or something, you can still Power Word Feast it, right? So if they had like a 2/1 on board, and they decide to, because a lot of the thing is like it's a lot more common just to trade like say like to trade something in the hope that it will go away, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So, like because of the whole like rush coming through in general, minion trading is just seen as like the norm, right? And then of course we got if I had another one of these, I think Velweaves, I would definitely put it in because it's such a good card, and it's obviously like it synergizes with basically so many cards in my deck. Also got the Imprisoned Homunculus. Yeah, really good stat line. Good for Inner Fire actually. Now, the Psyche split really is where you're gonna really ramp up your stuff. So you spend like turns 1 to 5, building up like maybe with getting card draw with Real Weaver now and Overseer. But if you can get, I mean, if you get a Psyche split on like say like a 4/4 Overseer, that makes it like a 5/6, and you get 2 of them, and then at the end of the turn they do an additional buff to get like to it really like ramps it up so much. You can get like absolutely massive minions out, but it's not always going to happen. And then you might need this card, Mind Render Elusive. This is actually the first legendary I got in the whole expansion. This can be really powerful in like a number of different ways. It can be if you do it early defense. If you've got a good decent board, or if you're kind of struggling for board, and your hand's getting quite empty, you can play even if you can't play their cards to give them like an empty hand with nothing. you could. I mean, because your cards are quite good, they still might get something. But um, it's interesting combo. Also, it's funny if they play this, if they've got no cards and they just think I'll just play anything. They actually give you those cards when they trade back. Like, um, it's kind of like again. I've mentioned this before, but like at the end of your turn, this is not quite at the end of your turn. The end of your turn. Well, I guess that counts as your next turn when you trade back, so that is actually a later stage. Yeah, and when it says until the next turn means the start of your next turn. This means the end of this turn. So yeah, I guess I can see why that actually makes sense with the card tech. It's always like, there are certain things where there's no way to, like, if two things happen at the end of your turn and they're kind of one's going to affect the other, you just have to hope that the one you want, the order you want it to happen in, happens that way. Power Shield. This is really good to play on a. I mean, that can get you to a 1/6. Again, another early thing. 1/6, and then you play Feast, and that'll be a 3/8. 3/8, and then if you've got a coin, like 4. It could just snowball massively. Apotheosis is good. Voracious Reader is kind of like, I would say it's a mid-game kind of card. I've tried to use it at the beginning, but in general, even though your like hand is pretty cheap, it's actually not that easy to get into a situation very early game where you can actually use this. So it's sort of better when you just sort of put it down later. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you can't use it early game. It's something I realised pretty early on, actually. But yeah, not much more to say about this deck, but it's pretty fun, so thanks for watching.